What is up, guys? It's Mr. Lancaster. It is Tuesday. Hey, 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 Tuesday. It ain't hump day yet. But we getting there. We getting there. So we left off on volcanoes, and I told you we're going to go to the mountains. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go straight to mountains. All right? High up. So let me share my screen with you. You know what it is, what it do, what it be happening. Share my computer sound. All right, so if you go to my Google Classroom, you should be familiar with this by now, but if you're new, you're going to go to the classwork here. You can go to science linked activities. Ooh, my hair is a mess. And you go down to mystery 3. You can check this out. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be going over the whole thing, but you can check this out if you want. This is really cool. But we're going to go to mystery 3 as a class. So let's get started. This stuff is wowzers. Wowzers, wowzers, wowzers.
Hi, it's Doug.
Oh, hold up, Doug. Okay, I have my sound on. Sorry. All right, let's do this.
You're looking at Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. Mount Everest and the surrounding Himalaya mountains are so tall that astronauts can see their snow-capped peaks all the way from space.
What?
Part of what makes mountains so impressive is that they're solid rock.
Did y'all hear that? Let's go back to that. Oh, what? They can see it from space?
And the surrounding Himalaya mountains are so tall that astronauts can see their snow-capped peaks all the way from space.
What? Is my tongue green? Oh no, it's just the camera. I was about to say, I thought my tongue was green from all the Sprite. I've been spriting it up, but that's crazy.
Part of what makes mountains so impressive is that they're solid rock all the way through. Like, look, this isn't a mound of individual rocks piled up really high. This mountain is one single solid rock. Mountains are like walls of vertical rock going straight up into the sky. But will these mountains always be there? Do mountains last forever?
Do they?
You might think, well, yeah, why not? But let me tell you a story. A story about not a natural mountain, but a mountain made by people. This, a pyramid, you know, like the kind built by the ancient Egyptians.
Okay.
The Egyptians lived right here, but our story actually takes place on the other side of the world, here.
And we're here. Don't forget that. Boom, 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 boom. There's North Kakalaki, North Carolina. And we are right smack dab here.
In the jungles of Central America. The people over here made a type of pyramid too, a people called the ancient Mayans. This is the Mayans' most well-known pyramid. It's a great temple called Kukulkan, about 100 feet tall. Now, pyramids, unlike mountains, are not one solid piece of rock. Instead, they're built up, layer by layer, brick by brick, using stone bricks that have been chiseled by hand. About 1,000 years ago, the Mayan people abandoned the use of their pyramids. They actually left them, and they went to live in other places. Most of their pyramids became long forgotten. In fact, hundreds of years later, people didn't know many of the pyramids were even there anymore. They were lost in the jungle.
What?
What happened to the pyramids? How could something that big go missing? About 100 years ago, local residents were traveling through the jungle and noticed this. Do you see it?
What do you think it is? No, it's not King Kong, but you can probably guess.
It's a giant hill covered in trees. There aren't many hills around here, so that's kind of weird. The residents who noticed got interested, so they went closer to check it out. When they got to the base of the hill, this is what they saw. They noticed that weirdly, the trees had been growing in a pile of rocks. So they started removing the trees, and when they did, here is what they saw.
Boom!
This. Look at that. It's the steps of a pyramid. Once they finished removing all the trees, this is what was revealed.
Okay, can you imagine you and your friends, oh, we're just going to go through the jungle, and then you find this? That's crazy. How awesome is that?
It was one of the ancient...
That is whoa. Can I get a whoa? I know, R2. That's crazy.
Mayan pyramids. It's so cool. So what happened? Well, here's a close-up of one of the trees before they removed it. What do you think is going on here? What do you think happened to this pyramid?
Okay, you've probably seen stuff like this before. Just walking down the street, or maybe your parents are driving the car, or in the sidewalk, or maybe on the side of a building, or maybe in one of those parking lots where like something's gone out of business, and then you see these plants growing through the concrete and stuff. You're like, whoa, who planted these trees in the concrete? No one did. So how'd it happen? We're gonna find out how. So here's a close-up of one of the trees before they removed it. What do you think's going on here? What do you think happened to the pyramid? So, of course, we know the trees somehow got over that pyramid. I mean, I don't think they built the pyramid inside of the forest. I think somehow the trees started growing over and around the pyramid, even though it's rock. I mean, you usually need dirt and soil for plants to grow, right? So how are they even growing here like this? It's just so weird.
The pyramid's bricks used to look nice and straight, but now they're crooked and some have crumbled. What happened? It seems like the trees were breaking the bricks. Is that really possible for plants or trees to break something as strong as rock?
Is it?
That sounds crazy. Roots aren't that tough, are they? But let me show you something. Here's a whole bunch of solid rock. It's what used to be a lava flow. But the lava cooled, and so now it's solid rock, and it's tough. You would think that it would be here forever, but if you look closely, as it cooled, it left some little cracks. Those are its weak spots. Seeds can land in the cracks. And when those seeds get rained on, they grow. Let's look more closely. Imagine a seed that's fallen in the crack of a rock. Now let's imagine the seed grows a little root like that. And the root will grow, and it'll grow, and grow, until it fills up the crack. Notice that the root didn't just get longer, it got wider too. Now the root doesn't just stop there, it keeps growing. As the root grows bigger, it pushes outwards like this, until eventually, crack! It breaks the rock, making the crack wider and deeper. Eventually, that section of rock will even split off entirely, creating a new chunk of rock. What you just saw here, scientists have a name for this. They call it root wedging, because a root wedges itself into the crack and widens the crack. So does this explain how large Mayan pyramids could have become hidden in the jungle? Well, think again about what was found. It was a forest of trees growing on top of a pile of rocks, and when they removed the trees, the inner layer of the pyramid was underneath. So now you can understand what happened. Between every brick is a crack. That's a perfect opportunity for a seed. When the Mayans were around, they probably kept their pyramids looking very nice, sweeping away any seeds that might have fallen into the cracks. But when the Mayans left their pyramids behind, the jungle took over.
Right.
The surrounding trees dropped their seeds into the spaces between every brick, and the roots grew and grew, breaking up the outer layer of the pyramid. That's why, when the Mayan pyramid was rediscovered, it looked like this, just a pile of rocks with trees growing out of it. Now that we know this is what happens, lots of other Mayan pyramids are being rediscovered. Hike around the jungles of southern Mexico, and you might even be the person who rediscovers one of the old pyramids. The first clue is to look for a pile of rocks with trees growing out of it. Now, you may not be planning any trips to the jungles of southern Mexico soon. Still, you can actually see root wedging happening in your neighborhood. You don't have Mayan pyramids in your neighborhood, but you do have sidewalks. Sidewalks don't last forever. If you look around, you can almost always spot at least one section of sidewalk where there's a small crack that's started to form. Just look for the plant or tree that's causing it. It's root wedging. Like, check this out. Can you tell what's going on here? This tree's roots were so powerful that they actually broke apart this section of sidewalk.
What?
Just the same as if someone had tried to destroy it with a jackhammer.
Yep.
Isn't that incredible?
Yup.
And look at this. Here's a brick wall that's been cracked, just like the Mayan pyramids. So, root wedging. It's one way that a large slab of rock, like a mountain or a pyramid, gets broken down into smaller pieces. But it's not the only way. In fact, one of the most common ways involves something totally other than roots.
What do you think that is? I'll give you a hint right now. So, what are those things in the road that everyone hates to drive in and it messes up your car? Pause the video before I show you because I'm going to show you right now. It is none other than, not that, potholes. Potholes are just holes in the concrete. They're just holes right there, and you're like, what? Who put this hole here? Did someone just come and just beat a hole in the middle of the road? Like, who would do that? That's not really how it works. How does it work, Mr. Lancaster? Well, Doug's going to explain it. Doug, how does it work? Let's see.
Consider again this solid slab of rock, like this lava rock, which left some cracks in it as it cooled. Seeds aren't the only things that can fall into those cracks. You see, as it rains, water seeps into the cracks too. And that alone can cause problems. Water? Yeah, you heard me right. Water. Let's look more closely. Here's some rainwater in a crack. Now, by itself, the water doesn't seem like much. But as the year goes on, winter approaches. And you know what happens to that water as winter approaches? It freezes.
Right.
Well, something special happens when water freezes. Do you know what? I'll give you a hint.
Cold.
Have you ever heard not to put a can of soda in the freezer? Why do people say that? Don't put a can of soda in the freezer.
No, I'm not going to. So has anyone ever told you not to put a can of soda in the freezer, especially Doug? He seemed pretty adamant about that. Why do you think people say this? Think about it. I'm going to leave you with that. What happens? If you've never done it, don't do it. Just ask your parents. They'll tell you what happens, because if you do it, it'll be a mess. We're going to pick up on that last time with this question. I'll see you guys. I missed you so much. Much love. Bye.